much fall off. And you can start a brewery from a business sense on a very minimalistic budget. And so once you get past your bench, and all of this is very dependent on what systems and how much fabrication you want to do yourself. But let's say 40,000 is what you can start a brewery on. And in a business sense, that's not a hard flip. That's not hard to come back from once you're charging $5 to $7 for a glass.
Right.
But why you see so much of it now, particularly in your major grocery stores and your chain restaurants, your Krogers, your BW3s, a lot of smaller entities or even some craft beer places that were doing well have been bought out by larger chains. So Anheuser-Busch, or InBev as they are referred to in stocks, they purchase a lot of small breweries. Goose Island from Chicago has actually been bought out by InBev.
That's the one I was going to mention.
And so, there's a lot of back and forth about that and how people feel about it and within the craft beer community, but it definitely has made craft beer more visible. And some of the fears that now those breweries get watered down.
Right. Because I haven't messed with Goose Island since they were bought out.
This is my Goose Island thing. Goose Island still does what they want to do in Chicago.
Okay. You put that disclaimer on the end of it.
They have very much commercialized what they put out on the shelves for mass distribution, but Goose Island still does one-offs, and they're very popular Bourbon County series. And they have an offsite from their main brewery in Chicago, in a suburb of Chicago, where they still do very unique and inventive takes. They have a farmer's market series where the chef there and the head brewer, they go out and they pick 3 ingredients that the other one has to use.
Okay.
So they still do all that. They just decided they wanted to make a whole lot of money.
Which usually happens. It's just funny because this is kind of akin to, No Limit, Ruthless Records, Aftermath, all of the various Bad Boy, all of the smaller independent hip hop labels that were actually picked up by the traditional record labels, and that's what's
Columbia,
exactly Sony, and that's kind of the same thing that's happened over here in the beer game. And once again, and similar to, even more similar to that, Rap-A-Lot being another one. Now these regional favorites such as a Goose Island in Chicago, actually it's kind of astonishing to see as many IPAs coming up out of California, being the vegans and the vegetarians and all the different eating styles out there. But now to see this influx of beer companies, which are IPA is pretty heavy on your calories and whatnot, so that's just kind of an interesting.
There's a reason for that. I know we don't want to spend the whole time talking about this. West Coast IPA is a style of IPA, and particularly
again East versus West.
It's just climate. It's climate.
Okay,
so a lot of your hops grow in the western part of the country, and particularly Stone was the first ones to really get a stranglehold on that style of IPA, the West Coast style of IPA.
Ruination
is one. Just Stone IPA was there first, and then Ruination and all these other offshoots of it, variations with slightly different hop builds.
Okay.
But that's where that came from. They decided that they wanted to basically make the IPA even more bitter, more powerful, and that's your standard West Coast style.
Wow. So I'm sure any differences in the West Coast, East Coast beer community will be handled much differently than
Handshakes
Death
and
Row.
hugs.
Right, much differently than Death Row and Bad Boy. Hey, look, I think this is a great place to go ahead and cut off part 1 of today's Hoops and Hops. We're going to come back with the Ray Donovan recap and then get into our NBA stuff. We'll try to keep that to 30, 45 minutes for you. I thought that was a very interesting segment, and just to kind of move forward with the hops part of things. So again, this is the end of part 1. Please come back and press play on part 2.